right once it goes. It says this webinar is being live streamed, and the title that I shared with everybody for this one was S&P pushing down against the key level. Because what I was seeing in SPY, and I just did SPY because I was looking at Thinkorswim, was that it is getting ready to push through another key support level. So let me go ahead and share my screen so that we can get into this right now. And, this is an important move that we're seeing with SPY.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Helene, just looking at where we're, heading into the close here. Obviously, we had the close from last Friday. We got to a pretty short-term oversold level there, so we were due for that
Mhm.
little, relief rally, oversold bounce that we were, fully expecting because that's what our technical indicators are telling us. But that's all we thought that the move from Monday and Tuesday was. We thought that's simply all it was. We didn't think that was marking a bottom. We made several pieces of content, put that out there, distributed that, saying that we, said, don't trust this bounce, guys. We
Yeah.
really are not having a lot of confidence in this. We think that we're going to go back down and likely retest those lows and probably even push down further than that. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Obviously, today we had the Fed meeting, got a catalyst, fairly hawkish, press conference there from Fed Chair Powell. You saw interest rates actually spike during the press conference. That obviously put some additional pressure on stock prices here, and you're seeing the indexes, pushing down towards session lows here into the close. Got about 30 minutes before the markets close here in the U.S. So certainly looks like that prediction was accurate, Helene.
Hmm.
And starting, I don't know exactly where the level that we closed out on Friday. Let me see. The close on Friday was let's see, it was 66.32. So. We're 4 points away from that on the index level right now. It wouldn't shock me if we traded down through that here and actually set a new short-term closing low because if we close below that, only that will be our lowest close dating back to November of last year. We did have one low close, just a touch below 65.50 in November during that 5% pullback we had in November last year. So
Hmm.
that certainly is going to be a key level to be watching here in the days to come.
Absolutely, Blaine. Absolutely. Um, what do you want to check out next, Blaine, since we just broke down that SPY level?
Well, yeah, I think one other thing, just to add some additional context to that too, is that I think it'd be really helpful for people to also keep in mind, where the 200-day moving average is, because that's certainly one that is one that we've been pointing out a lot here recently too. It's pretty much exactly right where the intraday low of Friday was. It's just a hair above 6,600. We are within just a half of a bad headline away from that now. It
Hmm.
certainly looks like we're going down to test that 200-day moving average here. Certainly will be very important to hold that level because, of course, that's a widely tracked metric to determine whether we are still in this longer term uptrend. That's certainly in question now. Having the 200-day, in such close proximity, excuse me, to where the index is trading now. So just want to point that out. Looks like we're definitely going to be testing that here, probably, possibly by the close. We still have a lot of trading left to go in this final 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But definitely by the end of the week, I think we might be testing that, and it's important to see that hold up.
Absolutely, absolutely, Blaine. Okay, for people that are just joining in the room, we are breaking down the SPY into the close. Let's see. T-Man said overdue. This is healthy. 6,200 S&P in play. When is the question? Now or maybe September, October? 6,200 for SPY. That's what
That's a pretty
T-Man is
significant
saying.
pullback. That's more than 10% off the highs. We traded up to about 7,000, Helene.
Oh
So,
yeah.
dropping 700 points from there, that puts you at 6,300 S&P. So 6,200, you're talking about a little bit more than 10%. So that would definitely be a very substantial pullback there.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Blaine, absolutely. But I'm getting nervous here because honestly, if we break below that short-term low, if we close below there or trade below it, I think there's absolutely further to fall, right? I'm gonna zoom out just a little bit. I don't see what the next support level, Blaine, would it be back here at 651 after that? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the last like really significant support level, would be dating back to August of last year. If you remember, I mean, this was a long, long time ago, but you remember the panic about DeepSeek. that was,
Yeah.
the Chinese AI DeepSeek model that came out, and everybody freaked out for 2 days, that
Oh
the
yeah.
AI story in the US was over, right? You remember that? And so if
Yeah.
you look back to right at the beginning of August of last year, we had a very quick, very startling 2 day kind of blow up in the markets. It dropped pretty significantly. Let me get the exact levels here. But that, we opened that day all the way up at 64.27, and
Mhm.
2 days later at the close, we had traded all the way down to 62.38. So, I think that's going to be a key level. If we continue to trade down, there certainly is the low dating back to November of last year, but if we crack through that and the 200-day moving average, there is a little bit of an air pocket, I think, between that November low and then dating all the way back to August of last year.
Totally, totally. And Blaine, we had somebody jump in the room and say, "Hey, I'm new to trading. What should I buy?" Or Blaine, what would you buy as a? Oh, also T-Man said an S&P 5-year chart shows it's clear it's overbought. But sorry, Blaine, back to JHam. I'm new to stocks. What should I buy?
Okay, well, interesting. So, you and trying to think about the best way to answer this because, generally how we're looking on here, Helene, our job, our day job is, we're trading, we're managing
Yeah.
trade alert services. We have shorter term to intermediate term, trading, strategies and tools, and we're putting out trade alerts following those, technical analysis tools. So, if I were to answer it, kind of framing it that way, it could be one answer. If I was, personally just looking for, a different part of my portfolio, Helene,
Hmm.
for say a longer term hold, on a stock, that I'm really bullish on, that I like for the long term, that could be a completely different answer. I mean, I can kind
Totally.
of give you the answer to both, maybe. So, right now, Helene, one stock that I think, again, obviously, all this is for educational purposes only, not to be interpreted as official investment advice, but one stock that I'm really bullish on, Helene, for the long term. It's one that has gotten beaten up here a little bit lately, but I'm still very bullish on the long term, horizon for the stock, and I think there's going to be a lot of good things to come. It's CrowdStrike. You want to pull up a chart of CrowdStrike?
Okay, yeah, sure.
This is one that, I've liked it for a very long time. I've been in this stock for a long time. So full disclosure, I do own this stock. But this is one, it's a major player in the cybersecurity field. It kind of got beaten up with the whole software sell-off that we've experienced over the past 6 months. Um,
Hmm.
I I think it doesn't make a ton of sense that in a world, that AI is rapidly developing software, has come under question because, some of these companies might get disintermediated or, rendered obsolete because of what AI is able to do. But particularly with the cybersecurity name, I think it just kind of got caught up in the crowd with the selling and, it's in a lot of the software ETFs that had, a lot of selling pressure on them. In an AI dominated world that, it seems like what we're heading towards, I think you're only going to have more need for cybersecurity. That seems. I mean, maybe I'm missing something, but it seems like one of the most obvious things to me. So I'm personally very long term bullish on CrowdStrike. Helene, how do you see that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree, Blaine. I'm definitely long-term bullish on CrowdStrike. Also, I just have to say that, like in general, this group of stocks, I'm starting to feel bullish on them because of the price action I've been seeing. I've been saying the same thing about, broadly speaking, the software sector. It looks like the software sector is trying to bottom out. And then I was trying to remember which one I was bullish on. Was it now?
Yeah,
Now.
ServiceNow has an interesting chart.
ServiceNow is interesting. Adobe got beaten down, so I'm staying away from that one. But these names are finally starting to show signs of life again. I think that we're going to see, the momentum continue to move in this direction. They've been beaten down too hard for too long. I think it's time that they start to rally. I think we're seeing signs of just that.
Yep, without a
And
doubt,
that's
absolutely.
That's you. Jay Ham said, "Thank you guys. I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Jay Ham. We appreciate you being here. Guys, we hope you're enjoying this. If you are, definitely give a like, give a follow. We try to be live as much as we can with you all. We also have a free newsletter that you can sign up for. It's not currently in the profile, so just DM me. Or if you want to and get our free report for the 2 steps we take before every trade. That's actually in the profile. So you can get that now, but definitely feel free to reach out. Next up was Adam said, "What are you doing for dinner tonight?" Great question, Adam. I have no idea. Uh,
Haven't
Team
gotten that far yet.
He-Man TikTok said, I'd say Visa for the long term. Let's look at Visa. And hey, guys, if there are other
Visa,
stocks
yeah,
that you
very
want us to
interesting.
look at, go ahead and put it in the chat. We always love to break down your stocks too. So definitely put it in there. Visa for the long term, I personally, I think I own Visa in one of my retirement accounts, so full disclosure. But in the short term, from like a swing trading perspective, they're pretty bearish. It's something that I'd be staying away from at the moment. Not to say that this couldn't be a good entry opportunity to, buy on the way down, but it definitely looks like in the short term, they are in a bearish trend and they're kind of getting close, if not testing this last support level from back in, when was that, Blaine?
This,
In
if it closed at this level right here, Helene, this would actually be a new 52-week low close for Visa.
yeah. And T-Man said these are times you buy stocks, people, 15 to 20% downturns. Yeah, I will say like when the market corrects, they tend to be nice times to enter long-term holds, right? Like buying at a discount. I totally agree. Just from the short-term swing trading perspective, Visa though just looks a little bearish.
For sure, yeah. The whole thing you're touching on there, Helene, is just time horizon. Whether
Yeah,
you're talking about an investment or a trade, whether you're talking
totally.
about a long-term buy and hold and a really high quality company, believe in it over the long term, or if you're just looking for shorter to intermediate term price action and looking to, kind of squeeze a little bit of alpha out of the price action and the trend here in the short term. So totally different things you're talking about there.
For
Both can be
sure.
equally valid. Both can be very very legitimate ways, to, make a play in the markets. And we utilize both. We have stocks and ETFs and things that we hold for the long term that we feel really confident about. But also
Mhm.
too, spotting something like this. I also own Visa, Helene. I feel pretty confident in them for the long term. I've held it for quite some time.
Yeah,
But also too here in the short term, very clearly in a intermediate to short term downtrend. Trend
totally.
lines confirm that the price action confirms it. Seeing it break down to a new 52-week low, that's also, kind of gravy on top. It's certainly also helping to confirm that there too. And because of that, this one, MasterCard, AXP, Capital One, kind of the whole group of a lot of the, fintech kind of credit card related companies, they've all been trading very similar recently. And in fact, we've been putting out trade alerts to our members looking to trade these to the downside. We've been utilizing some of our strategic options setups that we like we often like to use and looking to actually play these to the downside here, at least in the short term, while you're getting some of this bearish price action, you have some really interesting setups in the options market, and we've been looking to do that.
Totally, Blaine. Let's see what T-Man also said Europe court decision didn't help today for Visa. He's been trading Visa a lot. Oh, interesting. Okay. Um, let's see. J-Dog asked about Amazon.
Amazon. All right. Let's see what
Let's
Amazon's up to.
check out Amazon. Let's see what's going on there. Some of these Mag 7 stocks are having some interesting movements, and I will say Amazon is moving in the right direction. Blaine, do you want to talk about that gap?
Yeah, with that one, obviously they had a pretty poor price reaction, following their latest earnings report. Big gap down for the stock. It moved down, from about 235 all the way down to about $200. It touched it intraday, on a couple times there. So had kind of a bit of a blow up following the earnings. It does look like it's trying to get constructive here and trade pretty strongly off those lows. So it's trying to get constructive. I
Mhm.
don't love seeing it down about two and a, actually about 2.9% now on the day. So it's near the lows of the day here heading into the close. That said, though, since that gap down, it has been making a shorter term series of higher highs and higher lows. It's gotten back into that gap. And we do know in technical analysis, you look for those gaps because if you get that huge swing in price action, but it doesn't hold, doesn't confirm. We haven't seen Amazon continue to trend down from here. It's actually recovered and started to at least get a little bit more constructive here over the past 3 or 4 weeks. So, when you see a
Mhm.
stock, have that gap down, then the price action moves the share price back into that gap. More often than not, you're going to eventually see that gap end up closing and see the stock trade higher to, where that gap originally began. So, not saying it's going to happen immediately, not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but if we continue to see some constructive price action here, still making these series of higher highs and higher lows, don't be shocked if that happens eventually. But again, with stock being down about 2.9% here now on the day, still, kind of somewhat in no man's land right now. It still needs to break
Mhm.
out a little bit further
Well,
one way or the other.
looking at this. Absolutely, absolutely, Blaine. Couldn't agree more. And for those of you that are just joining into the room right now, we had broken down SPY into the close. Let's touch base on that again to see exactly where we're sitting with SPY's movement as we're getting closer to the close. But guys, we're also wanting to break down your stocks. We always love to do that. We also like if there are any stocks that you want us to look at, put them in the comments. Also, do you think SPY and S&P, do you think the market is headed higher or lower from here? What do you think? Let us
Yeah, we want to
know.
hear your thoughts on this because, I know we have some pretty strong opinions on it, but I
Yeah.
definitely want to hear everybody's feedback out there. I definitely still think this market's going lower. There's a lot of headwinds right now. And, it's kind of some problems that I don't think are going to be all that easy to resolve.
Hmm.
So I think that we definitely still have some downside to go in this market. We're still spotting great opportunities to trade to the downside.
Yeah.
Obviously we have a portion of our portfolio, Helene, that is long-term buy and hold really strong positions, but also, in the shorter term, we're definitely looking to utilize some of our option strategies to, make some of these plays to the downside. We're not going to sit there and just watch a stock, just bleed lower and trend lower over time, when there's a great opportunity to trade them to the downside. So we're looking to capitalize on some of those positions here in this market.
And guys, the focus of this specific live was that SPY is closing in on this level. And right now, if it closed where it's at right now, it would be closing below that previous low, which is a bearish sign, which would tell us that we're going to see further breakdown from here. So that's what we're seeing in the charts right now, right? Here's SPY today. Here it was 3 trading days ago. If we closed at this level, it would be lower than that last support, and I would expect further breakdown from here. But what do you guys think? Are you thinking that the bottom is in, or do you think that we are trading lower? Let us know in the comments. Also, we hope you're enjoying this. So if you are, give us a like, give us a follow. We love getting to be here live with you guys, so definitely appreciate that. And from there, Blaine, um,
Yeah, Helene, I just
in
want to point out that yesterday too, if anybody was able to join us live yesterday, we, said this is exactly what we expected to happen in today's trading. We did not trust that move from Monday and Tuesday. We talked about, some of the reasons why we didn't. We talked about the inverse or bearish hammer price action pattern we got yesterday. It was a really weak rally. It really faded throughout the day. Said it was setting up for a move like this here today, and it's only continued to confirm that. We're near the lows of the session here. Big down day for the S&P, but it is exactly what we were anticipating. We got the confirmation of that. So, I hope you are all able to attend in live yesterday with us to see us talking about that and breaking it down so that you could be anticipating a move like this. But just want to throw that out there,
Exactly.
Helene.
No, that was a great point, Blaine, because you're right. We've talked exactly on that recently, how we were expecting things to go actually lower from here. So definitely good to point that out. Next up, Blaine, we just had gone over IGV, which is really where I'm seeing a lot of opportunity, right? Like when we look at the market, we're looking for the strongest sectors oftentimes, which right now are energy and utilities, but it's also important to look at where we're seeing trend reversals occurring, especially early, and IGV is one of those. Blaine, are there any other stocks that you wanted to highlight?
Just for, just like long-term buy, like stocks that I really like right now, or are you
Totally
talking
up
about
to you,
just
Blaine. Totally up to
okay.
you.
Yeah, there are, well, obviously talking about S&P, has started to fade. There's actually a trade alert I sent out to some of our members here just a few moments ago. We can get into one of them, but it was actually for SSO. It's a little bit lower cost for trading the options on. But again, talking about some of these opportunities to trade to the downside, we sent out the trade alert on SSO to go ahead and buy some put options for SSO. If you pull up, you got the chart up there, Helene.
Yeah.
And it was slightly in the money put option. Went out about a month on it. And we put out that alert there because I still feel very strongly. I think we're going to, still see some further downside here. The technicals are starting to confirm that. So the trend line systems that we follow are confirming that the price action is. There's been some very significant overhead resistance that the index has continued to struggle with. And so because all those reasons, I really think that, not only is our technical analysis confirming that the price action is likely to keep going lower from here, just a lot of headlines and, over, just risks this market I think is going to have trouble to deal with. So that was one I put out there, Helene. That was a really strong opportunity to, trade this market to the downside while it's moving. One
Hmm.
other one too, again, it was another bearish opportunity to, play with some options. It was PayX. So it was PAYX.
Okay.
And this obviously is, one of the, larger publicly traded HR, payroll processing type companies.
Hmm.
Some folks are probably pretty familiar with them out there. This stock has been under pressure for quite some time, really ever since we started getting somewhat of a mixed picture in the labor market here in the U.S. You started getting some jobs reports that, maybe initially came in good, started to get revised later on. See the, unemployment rate, tick up a 10%, and then you get a non-farm payrolls report that actually reported a decline. We just got another one of those here recently. So starting to see, a bit of a mixed bag in the labor market.
Hmm.
Not that it's completely, fallen off a cliff, but it's just really kind of slowed. It's this whole no hire, no fire environment. Obviously, a company like this that benefits from a growing labor force, one that's, that's expansionary, that's what a business like this needs. That's not what we're seeing right now. And so the macro headwind is against them. Obviously, the technicals and the price action, very, very bearish here. See the stock tried to kind of get up off the mat here recently. Had a bit of a rally. It had gotten pretty oversold in the short term. It was due for that relief rally. Barely traded up through the middle Keltner channel and then ultimately started trading lower. And I think it certainly looks like it's poised to keep trading down through those recent 52-week lows and probably continue to set some more from here. So that was another really interesting opportunity I spotted today.
Really interesting, Blaine. I like that one. I like that one a lot. Definitely a great bearish one. A lot of really great bearish setups that we've been seeing. One that people keep bringing up, asking if to buy right now is SoFi, right? So SoFi, this one has just been absolutely falling through the floor, trading lower. It just put in a new low yesterday, intraday. This is as bearish as they come in my book, right? Just falling through the floor. That's what we're seeing here. Now it is currently trading at $16, very low, but at this point, I think that it, can absolutely still fall further to the downside. It's just taking out all support. So I think there's nowhere now but lower.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. I think you're going to see some lower price action from this one too. We actually talked about this earlier when we were on live. So if I came up, I know it's a really common, really popular stock out there with a lot of folks. One that people really like to talk about. But yeah, I totally think that we're going to keep seeing some downward price action here. Again, the point I made earlier on this one is, before the big breakout from last year, the stock was trading somewhere, around $14 per share. It had kind of kept running into resistance at that level, but eventually in June of last year, it finally ended up breaking through that, setting off that, huge rally the stock saw last year.
Hmm.
So, between where the stock's trading now and all the way down to that prior level of resistance that, now is obviously going to serve as a level of support, is kind of a bit of an air pocket there. So I think that we're likely to see SoFi probably trade back down somewhere into that range of 14 and a half before that's what I would expect before you would
Okay.
likely see the stock find some firm support.
Interesting, interesting. We just had a question from T-Man. Feelings on a temporary dead cat bounce before lower lows.
Specifically for SoFi, you mean?
T-Man, can you clarify if you mean specifically for SoFi or not? Because I think for SoFi, for the market, he said for the market.
For the market overall. Well, so we kind of got that already earlier this week. So, we got to a shorter term, pretty significantly oversold in the short term state, on Thursday and Friday of last week. That's why we were, saying we were expecting a little bit of a kind of dead cat bounce relief rally on Monday
Mm-hmm.
and Tuesday, which is what we got. And then, we kind of flushed that out of the way. We still, had pretty, unsatisfactory trading in Monday and Tuesday, even though we were up on both days. We didn't finish anywhere near the highs of the session, actually kind of finished near the lows of the session. So we got past that oversold state there on Monday and Tuesday because of the short, brief bounce. Now we're starting to resume that trend lower. And so, I don't think we're back to that state yet, Helene. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that there's absolutely lower to go in the very short term with this. As you said, I think that dead cat bounce was 2 days ago. That's exactly what we were talking about pretty actively, was that we thought that bounce was a dead cat bounce. And today's trading confirms, that thought. So I definitely think you could get further down to like the lower counter channel at the very least before it finds oversold footing and trades higher in another dead cat bounce.
Yep, for sure. Just obviously too factoring in, just what's going on, what's driving the price action here. Rates are up. And the price of energy, oil, nat gas is up. Volatility is up. Excuse me. And there's been no relief on any of those fronts. That's not
Mhm.
to mention even some of the concerns that are going on in the financial sector related to private credit. So there's a lot of headwinds for this market, and there really has not been a satisfactory answer, at least for the market's perspective, really on any of those fronts quite yet. We haven't solved anything to alleviate high oil prices.
Mhm.
They're oil still near right around $100, at least here in the US. Overseas, it's much higher than that. It's continuing to creep higher. You're still seeing volatility spike. You're still seeing interest rates spike. So, I think we're going to keep seeing some lower price action here until we start to see some relief on those fronts. I personally am looking, for a test of that 200-day moving average that is just a touch above 6,600 right now. So that's a key level to watch there. But also, too, right past that, again, dating back to that November low that was coming in just a touch below 55 or 65.50 on the S&P. Yeah, I think those are going to be really key levels to watch. But again, if you break through those, we definitely could be looking at a much larger correction here.
Sure thing, Blaine. And as we had noted, this was us watching SPY into the close, and at these key levels, it currently is. If it closes where it's at right now, it's going to close below that previous low from just a couple trading days ago, and so we are thinking that we are headed lower from here. Okay, Blaine, with that, I think that we actually are gonna have to jump off 1 second here. Um,
I was just
uh,
looking at all the other major indexes here in the U.S., and it looks like all four of the majors are going to be closing at the lows of the session here. Look like the Dow actually might be down the worst. Yeah, it looks like that was down about 1.6%. So, yeah, definitely looks like a little bit more concentrated in the Dow. Makes sense with the huge spike in interest rates yet again here today. It's definitely going to weigh more on an index like the Dow. So, just wanted to point that out. Looks like all four of the majors are going to finish near their session lows. So, we'll be setting up for an interesting session tomorrow. We definitely have to be back on live to break down what we're seeing tomorrow once markets open.
exactly, Blaine. Well, okay, with that, I think that I have to jump off, but I just want to thank everyone so much for being on. I appreciate your patience with us as we've been figuring out our technology too, because we're trying to set this up for the best possible viewing for everybody. So definitely very appreciative of that, guys. And we will be live at our normal time tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, Blaine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll be back live right around then. I know we have to keep it kind of short because we have another meeting tomorrow. So we'll have to, have a bit of a brief session tomorrow, but definitely looking forward to it. And until then, hope you all have a great rest of your evening and looking forward to seeing what happens tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. Okay, see you guys.
Take care, everybody.